So here I am in Sri Lanka, my first destination. This is the monastery I'll be staying at for the next few days while we have this conference on Buddhism. The thing I'd like to share today, I was thinking something I learned over the past 2 weeks in Thailand while I was meditating, and it didn't come. The clarity of it came, or the inspiration for it came not from the meditation, but from actually a deviation or a diversion from the meditation. There's a monk who's a relative of my teacher, his nephew or great nephew or whatever, and he disrobed while I was there, which is kind of disappointing. But he's an interesting monk. And he said something that really struck me, that really surprised me actually. He had the understanding that the point of the Buddha's teaching, the point of vipassana, of insight meditation, is to suppress or cover up the defilements of greed, of anger and delusion, to the point that they become, they decompose, basically is what he was saying. They rot. And when they rot, then they, I guess, disappear. And I immediately argued with him, but at the time it wasn't clear in my mind what exactly he was saying and what importance it had. But when I went back to meditate and putting it together with my meditation, and the fact that it seems so clear that meditation is not that, or insight meditation is not that. That insight meditation is actually taking the lid off the pot, so to speak, of our rotting mind. Our mind that the Buddha said is, he called the defilements asawa. Asawa means rotten, and they rot the mind. They cause the mind to become pickled, actually, or I don't know what the right word would be. And so they don't disappear. They rot the mind. They're in there rotting and causing the mind to be rotten. That's not a good thing. It's not good. It's not a compost pile where we're talking about ourselves and our minds. Something that it's important to purify and to make pure. And so what I thought, thinking of this morning, I was going to talk about this, and I thought, what is this in terms of the Buddha's teaching? And then I realized this is what the Buddha meant by the middle way. Because, and this is the profundity that we don't often realize. We hear the Buddha said, don't get involved, don't go to the extreme of sensual attachment to sensual pleasures where you're following after them. So we say, okay, fine, I won't be a prince, and so on. I won't dedicate my life to sensuality, and then don't torture yourself. So we say, okay, so I won't go off and go naked and stand in the sun and not eat, and all of these ascetic practices that they had in India. But it's so much more immediate than that. That's not what is meant by these two extremes. The two extremes are how we approach reality. The addiction to sensual pleasures is when the emotions come up, whether it's greed or anger or delusion, we follow after them. When we want something, we chase after it. When you have desire for something, you go for it. You say, okay, I want it, therefore I should get it. I should chase after it. The addiction to or attachment to torturing yourself it's so perfectly clear, and this is exactly what this monk was doing. It's what most of us do, especially when we hear about Buddhism. We hear the Buddha taught, and greed is bad, anger is bad, delusion is bad, and we get this idea that the Buddha was condemning people who had these things, condemning the person for giving rise to these things. And we say, okay, so in that case, the point is to suppress them, to stop them from coming. When they come up, that's bad, that's sinful, that's evil. But really, this is not how the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught us to understand these things. He taught us to understand greed, to understand anger, to understand delusion. And we don't get this because we haven't reached the middle way. We think if you let them come up, you're going to follow them. There's only two ways. You either follow them or you suppress them. But this is the point. The Buddha said there's a third way. When they come up, you don't have to follow them, but you don't have to suppress them. They come up, we say, it's a problem. If I don't suppress it, I'm going to follow it. I'm going to become greedy. I'm going to chase after and to become addicted to these things. But it's not the case. So the true vipassana, if you ask me, from my understanding of the Buddha's teaching and from my own practice, is that these things come up, and they can be really scary because we think this is bad, this shouldn't be happening. You want something, lust comes up, or you hate someone. You find some people find when they meditate, suddenly they're full of hate. They hate everyone. They hate everything that comes up. They're angry at everything. But these are the emotions that exist in our minds, and normally we would feel guilty about them and suppress them and say that's bad, that's sinful, that's wrong. And they just rot there. They don't go away. They pickle our mind. They cause the mind to become rotten and corrupted. So this is the scary truth of the Buddha's teachings, that you have to let these things come up. You have to be able to accept the evil that's inside of you. We say it's evil. The reason we say it's evil is because it causes you suffering. But that doesn't mean suppressing it is going to answer things. It doesn't mean you can deny the existence. You have to accept the fact that inside of me there are things that are, if you don't like the word evil, they're unwholesome, or they're unskillful, or they hurt us, and they hurt other people, and we should get rid of them. But they're not going to go away just by covering them up. So this is what really hit me talking to this monk and through the meditation practice, is that they're not going to disappear by themselves. They have to come up, and you have to accept them in the sense of accepting that they're there, and take them apart, pull them apart piece by piece, and see them for what they are. Because in fact, all that they are is a knot. You look at this and you say, it's a knot. It's tangled up. My hands are tangled up. But really, when you pull it apart, there's no tangle. It has disappeared. When you untie the knot, all you have is a straight rope. The knot is in fact a non-entity. And this is a very important part of what the Buddha meant by anatta, of non-self. That it's not only that we don't have a self. The point is that every phenomenon that arises is a non-entity. It's not something that exists in and of itself and is going to be in our mind, forever, or that we have to attack or fight. Once we see it, we see that it's nothing. It's immaterial. It arises and it ceases, and it has causes and conditions. And if we don't give rise to the cause, the result won't come. So this is my thought for the day, and I think it's a very important teaching, very important from the point of view of Vipassana meditation, and even more so because it's the first thing that the Buddha taught when he turned the wheel of the Dhamma at Saranat, and for the 5 monks, these first five people who were supposedly the first 5 people to understand the Buddha's teaching. This is the first thing he taught. He said, "Dve me bhikkhave anta papachitena na sevitava." There are these two extremes that no one who has left behind or who has gone forth in search of freedom should follow after. This is the addiction to sensuality, or in the sense of chasing after the phenomena that arise, and the suppression of them, or the torturing of themselves, the suppressing and repressing one's desires. The addiction. There's addiction to torturing yourself, but this is how we torture ourselves. We feel guilty. We hate ourselves. We cause ourselves suffering, thinking that somehow this is. You don't have to stop eating or stand on one leg or all these crazy things that they did in the Buddha's time in India. That's in order to torture yourself. Just by hating yourself, by feeling guilty about yourself, that is directly a form of torture, and that's exactly what is meant here. And this is exactly what you experience in meditation, that you go between these two extremes. One moment you're chasing after them, this is great, I love it. The next moment you're castigating yourself for it. This is evil, this is bad, I'm a bad person, and so on, and anger and hatred arises, and you torture yourself. So, thanks for tuning in. This is Sri Lanka.